Odometer is reading 22,985.9. We are sneaking up on 23,000 miles. I have owned this bike from the point at which it had, I believe, 875 miles on it. It was 4 years old when I bought it. It's a 2002 model. I've now had it 20 years. So let's do a 23,000 mile review on it. Couple of things about it that I will point out is I got caught up in the whole, oh, you need to do a manual cam chain tensioner, which was all the talk on Thumper Talk, which is a big internet forum. I don't think it's as popular and used as much as it used to be, but back in the 2000s when the two, I think they were both named Brian, when the two Brians owned it, and they were actually the ones that created it, it was a very, very active forum. I used to remember seeing the DR-Z section had, and the forum software they used back then, it would show you how many people were visiting each given topic area. So I remember the DR-Z forum was always the most active. On a given evening, it was common to see 100 plus users reading and replying to messages in the DR-Z forum. A number of years ago, they changed to a different forum software, so that function went away. Then they changed it again, and then now it's owned by a big corporate forum conglomerate. But anyway, so everybody used to preach, oh, you need a manual cam chain tensioner on your DR-Z. So I got caught up in that hype, and fast forward about 6 years, and that actually caused more problems than it solved. It didn't hurt the engine, but I didn't keep it adjusted. I probably didn't have it adjusted correctly to begin with. So one day I was out riding in the same area that I'm in today, and two guys I was riding with both said, why is your bike making so much noise? It sounds like the cam chain is loose. I said, well, it doesn't sound any different to me than it ever sounds. Well, that's because I was used to the sound. So I left the bike with the guy that lives over in this area. He owned his own shop at the time and also did some work out of his house. So he pulled the top end apart, discovered it. Yep, the cam chain was really loose. And I said, well, take that stupid manual tensioner out and put a new OEM tensioner in. So he did. And I think in either 2002 or maybe 2003, I can't remember for sure, but Suzuki updated the automatic cam chain tensioner. So I probably would have been fine leaving the first one in there that was in there, the automatic. But at any rate, other than that, the only problems I've had with the bike is about 7 years into ownership, it stopped charging. So it turned out the stator had failed. And I guess that's kind of a common issue with DR-Zs, the OEM stator. So the friend that did the cam chain work also replaced the stator. I've never had any issues with the regulator rectifier. I'm still running the original one. And then I had charging issues again probably about 4 years ago, I think. And it turned out the stator had taken a dump again. So I picked up a stator from Rocky Mountain. It's called the Electrosport brand stator. Supposedly it's a little bit higher output. Well, at the same time that I did that, see, now another mod that people used to talk about on Thumper Talk was the free power mod. Well, I had heard about it all those years ago, but I never researched what it was or how to do it or anything. But people would say that it increased your charging voltage. So when I replace a stator on my own, when I put the Electrosport stator in, I did that free power mod. So what it does is it bypasses some of the factory wiring from the regulator rectifier and goes straight to the battery. So you end up cutting a couple of wires, putting in some new wires, as well as preferably a fuse that goes to the positive of the battery bank. Or the battery. I get so used to talking about multiple batteries, like in RVs, I sometimes refer to a battery as a battery bank. And it did literally increase my charging voltage. And other than the typical expect to replace the battery every 4 to 5 years because these DR-Zs eat batteries, even leaving them plugged into a battery tender during the off season, they still seem to eat batteries. I attempted to put a lithium battery in it about 6 or 7 years ago. Somewhere on my channel there's a video of that. Well, I was totally unknowledgeable, didn't know that there was a different trickle charge profile for lithium batteries, so I ended up smoking, not literally smoking, but I wrecked that lithium battery because I didn't put it on a proper trickle charger that was meant for lithium. I now have a battery tender. It's actually the battery tender brand that will do lithium. So when I took that failed lithium battery out, which I didn't even have it in the bike but a couple weeks or a month, I put a normal battery in, a normal lead acid sealed battery, and that lasted up until this year, and now I've gone back to a lithium battery. I picked up one from Tusk. So another incident that has been self-inflicted to this DR-Z, it in no way, shape, or form represents the reliability or lack of, but it does go to show how bulletproof these bikes are. About 7 years or so ago, I was going through a creek crossing. It was actually a small river, and it was early in the season, and I'm pretty sure that at that time that river was deeper than I had ever seen it. Well, I target fixated on a rock, dumped the bike, sucked in some water, completely submerged the airbox, and hydrolocked the engine. Spent a couple of hours getting the water out of it trail side because it took that long because I didn't have the right tools. But then I fired it back up and it ran fine the rest of the day. It sputtered and didn't run perfect, but it ran good enough to finish a pretty technical trail ride. Then the next morning I went to the house of the guy that did the cam chain and also the first stator replacement, and I changed the oil, and miraculously there was no oil no water in the oil. There was maybe just a tad bit of condensation up on the dipstick, and that was it. I have rejetted this bike and done the typical jetting and 3x3 mod and changing the position of the needle or the clip on the needle or whatever it is, and then a manual fuel screw. And I replaced all of the JIS or Phillips head screws on the bottom of the carburetor bowl with Allen head screws. Somebody used to sell a kit that included those screws, and maybe it was somebody that sold a jet kit, or maybe it was whoever sold the fuel screw would sell that as a set. You buy the fuel screw and the Allen head screws that take the place of the OEM screws on the bottom of the carburetor float bowl. It's been a very reliable bike. I pretty much do oil changes every 800 to 1,000 miles. Sometimes I creep up closer to 1,200, but that's not the norm. I'm pretty sure that has probably contributed to the reliability and the longevity of it. Because it runs so well, I see no good reason to sell it. Check out a couple of videos I've uploaded within the last few days where I go ripping up a Forest Service road or old abandoned 2-track or whatever, and you can see that it's got every bit of power to do what I needed it to do. I've done a lot of upgrades to it over the years. I added grip heaters right off the bat. I installed a rear fender eliminator. Original version, I think, was a Baja Designs with a little fender extension and an LED taillight. It wasn't a custom fit for the DR-Z, but I made it work. It was pretty common that people would use that specific unit from Baja Designs. I eventually replaced it with something DR-Z specific because those Baja Designs LED taillights were really cheap. The LEDs would start to fail after a few years, and the screws would start to pull out of the body of the light. So I think I had ordered a replacement light, but then never installed it because I ended up going a different route. Picked up a tail light from a company called DR-C. It's called the DR-C Edge tail light, which is still a really popular DR-Z tail light to get. And then, I'm pretty sure that seller also had a license plate mount rear fender eliminator bracket that the taillight mounted to. I didn't get theirs. I went with a different brand. I think I got the one from Thumper Talk because it angled the license plate down just a little bit more so that it was more visible, which is a good thing for street riding. This is the second season that I've been running, maybe the third, that I've been running double take mirrors. I originally started out with the style that used a ram ball down here and a ram arm, and I had the round mirrors with the long stem on them. I actually absolutely hated those mirrors because with that long stem, it amplified the movement and the vibration. So last year, I sold those other mirrors and upgraded to this. I also have a round style mirror that has the ball right here on the end as well. So last year I was running one of each. This style on one side, the round style on the other side, to see which one I liked better. I guess I don't really have a preference as to which one I like better. But at the time, this is the shortest arm, 3.7 inch. Double Take now has a shorter arm. So prior to the whole Double Take mirror situation, I was using little handlebar mounted mirrors that were marketed by a company called Dualsport, which is the same company that sold this headlight shroud bag. So I ran those for probably 16, 17 years. And they were awesome for doing trail riding, fire roads, overgrown fire roads and whatnot, because they didn't impede anything up here. You didn't have this mirror impeding your visibility or getting in your peripheral vision. I have had grip heaters on the bike since day one. Grip heaters are wired in to the ignition switch. So the bike has been totally reliable. I have never had any mechanical issues other than the cam chain, which was sort of self-inflicted. Every few years I take all of the suspension linkage apart and clean it up and re-lube it. And I also have replaced wheel bearings a number of times, at least twice. Chain and sprockets, I've gone through a few sets of those. I always replace the sprockets at the same time I replace the chain. I use Primary Drive brand chains from Rocky Mountain. I'll have some links down in the description below to my DR-Z parts list, and in that parts list I've got a bunch of the accessories that I've installed as well as maintenance parts. But $22,995. I'm not going to make it to $23,000 but by the time I get to my camp. But yeah, that's basically it. I flushed the brake fluid. Holy crap, my boot just got stuck somewhere. Tried to hit the rear brake and I have never had that happen. I don't know what I did. The heel on my boot must have got caught up on this frame guard down there. That was scary. I had to rely on the front brake there to stop. Yeah, I flush the brake fluid every few years. I have had to replace the rear brake fluid reservoir once on the master cylinder because a common issue with the DR-Z was that dumb little plastic reservoir would start to swell up on the outer edge and on the inner edge too. So that was just a flat out bad design by Suzuki. Mine had swelled up many years ago and it never leaked. It didn't swell up to the point where it was causing any leaks out through the lid and the gasket, the little rubber thing. Probably 4 years ago I replaced it. You can actually order the reservoir separate from everything else. So that's what I did. I might have replaced the hose too. I've had a rear brake light switch fail. It still worked, but it jammed up. It got a bunch of grit and junk built up in it from all these years of riding, and it actually caused my rear brake to stay applied. It's sort of a weird design. When you push the brake down, instead of pushing the plunger in, the plunger releases. So as you push the brake down, the plunger comes out. So if the plunger gets stuck in the out position, the brake won't release. So that was 8 years ago. I pretty near burned up a brand new rear rotor and pair of brake pads that I had put on earlier that year. So the awesome thing about the fact that the DR-Z400 has been around for so long means it's easy to buy used parts. So I picked up a replacement used brake light switch on eBay. And I've had to replace or repair this. Actually, I mangled this radiator, the right side radiator, the first season I was riding the bike. and then had to send it out for repair. But it's still got that repaired radiator on it. So yeah, I guess that pretty much wraps it up. I definitely have no regrets buying this bike. It has been very reliable, and I love it to death. I have had so many great adventures on it over the 22,125 miles of riding it that I see no good reason to get rid of it. It's just, I'm too attached to it, I guess you could say. It's a lot cooler this evening. It was really hot yesterday. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have a DR-Z400S or SM, post how many miles down in the comment section, how many miles you have on it, and any kind of issues or problems, whether it's been mechanical failures or self-inflicted issues that you've had with yours. I'm just curious what other kind of issues people have run into over the years.